G'day everyone, my name is David Shield. Just joined CDP late last November to head up the Canvas rollout and probably make the introduction process a little bit easier. I've got a number of members of our CDP team on here today. So on our, we've got Bruce Carr there, who's heading up our new religion curriculum, which has been rolled out right across the diocese. And he's been heavily designing a lot of the professional learning courses for that new curriculum, which is a huge task, K right through to 12. That's right, Bruce?
Correct.
Close? Yep. And he's also been replicating some of those courses in schools and school-led courses. So quickly going from professional learning to an actual course that students are utilising. We've also got Chris Mcguire, who's part of our learning exchange team, who heads up a lot of technical and e-learning support, especially around the Google space, but is as heavily involved in designing professional learning courses as myself. And then we've got a couple of schools online here today. So we've got Santa Sophia and we've got Christina and Lisa there waving to you. I think also under my invitations, I haven't cloned myself. And we've also got Karen West from Parramatta Marist, who's our largest Canvas school in our little diocese. And yeah, so CDP are very well represented here today.
Thank you, David.
I'll introduce myself. My name is Marion Weeks and I work for Catholic Education Tasmania in the professional development team. So we use Canvas at the moment just for teacher PD across our 38 schools, 2,500 staff. But I have come from a TAFE background using Canvas across students and teacher PD.
Thanks, Marion. And Marion is one of our longest standing members of this group. She's come to every session, I believe, and this has some valuable feedback and contribution. So thank you, Marion, for being part of it. Then we have Alison or Vanessa or David or anyone wants to mention and say hello.
Hi, I'm Alison from Catholic Education in Cairns. David was good enough to write and introduce himself to me a few weeks ago, so it's nice to see David in person. So we're rolling out Canvas across a number of our colleges, and we're just starting to explore its usage for teacher PD from our office as well. So we're in early stages for most of these things, and I'm very interested and grateful to be part of a community where I can learn so much from others' experience. So thanks for having me today.
Thanks, Alison. We hope to have you back as well.
Oh, okay, and another day.
Yeah.
I'm Vanessa. I'm from Toowoomba Catholic Education. We've been running Canvas for a while now with our classes and have some of our PD, teacher PD in Canvas. We're looking at how that might be merged with a system that will help us record a little bit better what's happening with that teacher PD. Yeah, I've been working in this space, I think, for 3 years now. So it's nice to see some familiar faces as well.
Thanks, Vanessa.
I'm Kev, CEO Ballarat, and I do recognise a few people in the audience there from my connections with the CNA work that I do. We are right at the starting point of all of this, and when I say we, myself and Lauren, I don't know whether she wants to introduce herself or not, but we're from Ballarat and got some really good news today that we are getting out of one level of lockdown in 2 days, which is great.
Hooray.
We're very excited. I can actually go and meet yourself, Kevin and Lauren, which I'm very excited about as well. So yes.
Yeah.
Very excited.
Sorry,
No, all good. Thanks, Kev, for the introduction. All good.
Introduce myself, David Turk. I'm at the Leadership Institute in Western Australia. For those in the Victorian system, it's very similar to, say, BASTO or one of those organisations. We started with Canvas for professional learning for the courses that we run. Now with COVID, we've sort of been given a lot larger audience with Canvas, and we've had a whole heap of other parts of our department that have suddenly jumped on board. I think we've got about 11 sub-accounts now. So our role has sort of shifted from looking at our own work to sort of looking at a broader professional learning across our whole department.
Fantastic, thanks David. And I'm just making sure, I'm pretty sure most people have been introduced, but we do have Sean who just jumped on the line. He's one of our other recurring patrons, Sean Goodwin from Basto in Melbourne. Did you want to introduce yourself as well, Sean? Sorry to do it again to you. He may not be.
Yeah, sorry, and I have absolutely no idea what virtual background or otherwise I have up on my Zoom, so I haven't got enough previewed my video. But yeah, good morning. Oh, there you go, Top Gun flighter. There you go. See, it's always that way when you know you've entered a Zoom from another one and not realised what you had up as a virtual background from the night before. But yeah, good morning, good afternoon. Sean Goodwin, Technology Specialist at Basto Institute of Educational Leadership. We're a division of the Department of Education Victoria, and we educate educators in the leader space, yeah, predominantly in the state education system, K12 in Victoria.
Thanks, Sean. And as I said, you've been part of the group for a little while now as well. And I know everyone who's spoken to both yourself and Marion and David, who's been on a few as well. I know we've got a lot out of these sessions in the past. So what I will just mention for the future or the rest of today's session is that we will drive a little bit of it from Sue's point of view, and I'll get her to introduce herself formally in a moment as well. But we will carry on with a bit of direction from our part, but it is an open forum. In the past, I've sort of thrown it right back to you guys all the time and asked you for your feedback and discussion. I think some of the I guess results out of an objectives or outcomes out of those previous sessions is that you want to see a bit more about what we perhaps recommend sometimes, and that's why I've hunted down Sue. So I will jump into her session now and what she's going to go through, but please, just because we're presenting, don't feel that you can't ask questions. Sue and I are both very open. I will monitor the chat and jump in where you need to as well. Sue, did you want to say hello and introduce yourself and jump into this? Oh, I can do the slides for you.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Tori. Well, it's great to actually put a few faces to names that I've heard around the circuit. So great to meet you guys. And yeah, just to introduce myself. So I've been working, I guess, formally working for Instructure since September of last year. But I've been a Canvas educator since 2013. So using Canvas, I'm a teacher, 20 years in now, but using Canvas in my own classroom since about that first 2013 point, when the school I was working at, I was part of the first sort of rollout of Canvas when it was not a very well known sort of LMS. So 7 years of use, I guess. Moved to Barker College and was part of leading the rollout of Canvas there for several years. And then just finished up my time in the classroom as Director of Curriculum at Rationale Anglican College. So one of, I know Glory well, who's one of our consortium members from the Anglican Schools Corporation. So I just, I guess when I started at Canvas in September, my role was to actually get us accredited as an institution so that we could run NESA accredited professional development. So for those of you who are not in New South Wales, obviously we have the teaching standards, the AITSL standards, but NESA take those to another level, and we obviously have 100 hours of teacher PD, 50 of which needs to be accredited by a NESA registered organisation in New South Wales. And so Canvas, obviously prior to this, wasn't registered, and so that just meant that teacher PD that we did offer was all in that kind of teacher identified space rather than being actually able to account to accredited hours. So that was initially why I joined the team, and then have stayed into this sort of more learning consultant role in the rest of the year. And I also can't believe it's September. It's gone so very, very quickly. So yeah, so what I wanted to look at today, I guess, in designing some of our teacher PD, both through Canvas and obviously the roles that I've had within schools, it seems more and more apparent that I think one of the blockers to a sort of successful, really making it successful online, is that often with you teacher PD, particularly if you're in the school, it's a bit different maybe in the consortium model where you're sending the PD down, I guess, more from the top of your organisation. But within schools, it's often that, you know, the PD is sort of on the ground up, and Canvas is seen as almost like an addition or a tag on or an add-on. And I think that's also the case with a lot of our teaching colleagues, that Canvas is obviously became more important during lockdown and what's happened earlier in this year, but very much has been seen as sort of like the additional or the add-on, and we could put a bit of PD on there, or we could teach a little bit on there, that sort of thing, but mainly we're going to do it face to face. And I think the key to kind of really driving the strategy in the different way is what we're going to cover in this next session, which is actually putting sort of Canvas in the driving seat for all of the teacher PD. And so we're going to look at the different way of doing that. We're going to look at 10 steps for essentially going through that, and how we do it a little bit along the way. So I'm sure for some of you this may be teaching you to suck eggs, and for others it may be new ideas. But these are just sort of like, I guess, a gimmicky way to how we sort of approach our PD. So obviously for us, Canvas is the driver, and so we're using that to basically, it's not an additional feature or add-on, as I said, putting all your PD online and having that suite of PD offerings for your teachers to sort of dip in and dip out of. And for us, when we do the NESA accredited PD, we obviously need to have the ETAMS numbers of teachers here. So we use sys import to actually have the user ID being their teacher number, so that we can clearly see in the mark book when they're achieving different milestones in the course, and I'm marking the work essentially, that we can clearly see the teacher and their ETAMS number. If any of you are familiar with what it's like to put teacher hours into ETAMS in New South Wales, you'll know it's a very painful experience. And so any way that makes it a bit quicker from our point of view is a blessing. So basically that's the first bit, using Canvas as the driver. And then secondly, as you go through the course, obviously using Signposts. So in the courses that I'll give you a demo in a moment of some of the courses, but I thought if we start here, then you'll know what to look out for when I show you some of our online courses. But yeah, using Signposts, so things like module requirements, very clear naming conventions, obviously using modules themselves, but using those as signposts for what you want to direct the teachers to do, either in self-directed mode or if you're going to actually do a sort of more blended model. But yeah, really strict in terms of how you're gearing them through, and then using those module requirements so that whenever they jump back online, they can clearly see where it was that they left off. So I think leveraging them. If any of you have ever done an online learning course through Canvas, like I did one in instructional design earlier this year, and that was through Queensland University of Technology, who use Canvas as their online learning. It's really great when you log back on to actually just be able to be reminded of where you're up to, and the system's reminding you. So module requirements really important. And then yeah, check the gas. So frequent low stakes formative assessment, so that whether this is in quiz form, or if it's something that's obviously really crucial, like in a first aid course, for example, really crucial to continuing in the course. Sort of like, I guess, a hinge question that we would use in with students. Yeah, frequently checking the assessment and understanding. And I think not only to check for understanding, but also to encourage that motivation. We all find it really motivational when we do well in a test, however small or might seemingly insignificant. I think that frequently checking the gas kind of helps with that motivational piece. And then fourth along the way is to stop for coffee. So along with kind of keeping momentum with checking the gas, also actually planning time for synchronous check-ins. And I think if you're in the school environment, this could be, the face-to-face, actually having time for teachers to gather together, to, how teachers love to talk, to debate content, to actually work through scenarios or put it into their actual professional practice. So time together in a sort of physical space, or if this is a fully online offering, obviously there might be times when you can stop for coffee by doing synchronous sessions, obviously through Big Blue Button or Zoom or whatever, you know, every platforming you've got. So taking time to obviously make sure that you've got some synchronous time. I think in terms of course design, avoiding fatigue for number 5 is really important. And I see this with teachers a lot as well, putting lots of assignments into courses. So expecting, you know, if you're obviously going to put an assignment in, it needs to be marked. So making sure that you're really leading through pages or through quizzes that are sort of auto-assessed, rather than endless assignments, which are going to generate work for the person doing the moderating and the person making sure that the teachers have completed the PD, I guess. So be very discerning in where you put assignments to avoid fatigue, not only on the part of the participant, but on the part of the presenter as well. So I would only use assignments very, very discerningly. Instead, I would do things like add, you know, if you're going to do a discussion post and it's kind of, you do really want them to do it, I would add it to the to-do list rather than make it a marked discussion. If it was something that was compulsory for their you know, for their achieving the hours, for example, like with Nessa, we have to have compulsory things, then I would make it, say, a marked discussion, and I would make it complete or incomplete so that it's not very onerous on the person checking that the work has been completed. So avoiding fatigue at number 5. And then number 6, to actually include that sense of collaboration, and Tori and I are going to demo this a little bit with the Task Consortium PD that we did earlier this year. But getting passengers talking, so getting the teachers talking to each other. So through discussion posts, essentially, whether or not that be marked or just on the to-do list or voluntary discussions, but actually including that sense of collegiality between the you know, teachers from different areas, or between, if it's not teachers that you need your PD in, if it's administration staff, or however you want to use Canvas, but obviously encouraging them to talk to each other. Some time savers there. If you're not already aware about being able to add rubrics to a discussion, you know, putting a simple participation rubric onto a discussion can help obviously guide people into the way that you want them to interact, if it is kind of like an actual important discussion that you need, you know, to gather evidence from. And then number 7, maybe a bit controversial, but pimp your ride. So not, you know, just making sure that you're using the tools to your full advantage. So obviously Canvas provides the platform for lots of rich content. So, you know, anything from, you know, your content providers, like in a first aid course where they'll provide you maybe the videos or anything to work with like that, you know, maybe some gory examples. You know, obviously YouTube, ClickView, any of the LTIs that you've got built in, studio content if it's from homemade things from your presenters, that sort of thing. But making sure that you've got some bells and whistles in your PD to actually keep that level of engagement going, I guess. And then as you're actually operating along the journey, you might begin to find either groups that have come up more organically, or groups that have, you know, that you're aware of anyway. And to start actually making some sense of, again, that collegiality between participants. So you might group through similar schools, or you might group across a consortium through departments. But I know from my time at Rice Hill, it was really interesting when you started talking to your counterpart in another school, and seeing how they did things, and, you know, being able to sort of break down some of those distance barriers and actually using the technology to its full example, you know, full effect, because you could actually start talking to colleagues in different places. So start kind of introducing people, grouping them together so that you can target some of the professional learning in that way as well, and have a nice outcome from it. And then following the route, this is, I guess, works very much with teaching and learning programs too. Obviously, there's all the bells and whistles that you can have in a teaching and learning program that, you know, sort of like the icing on the cake activities. I certainly do put those into my professional development courses in terms of additional academic readings, and links that people can go to if it's particularly captured them and they want to go a bit further. But really, teachers' time, obviously, as you know, is they're very, very precious about it. And so to actually keep it down to the nuts and bolts of what you want them to do, to achieve, is really important. And then obviously provide some extras if they want them, you know, but keep that kind of maybe as a little bit of a extra for them to do. And then lastly, yeah, enjoy the ride. So yeah, making sure that it is an enjoyable, you know, they are doing professional learning. Some of it is maybe against their will, if it's kind of like, you know, all those compulsory things that you do have to sit through, and yeah, they're really important for the job, but might not be the things that particularly grab you. And then some of it is obviously going to be things that they are personally interested in. But along the way, obviously, to focus on ways that you can enjoy the ride. So for the teacher PD, the 5 session blocks that Tori and I just ran for task, for example, after every session, we just posted a simple kind of jokey meme that was in each discussion post. But it was just a way of kind of encouraging a sense of a bit of fun to what we were doing, you know, getting people to not take ourselves too seriously, having a bit of collegial spirit, I guess, you know, so encouraging participants to join in and have a bit of fun along the way. And that can be through informal discussions or, you know, welcome messages, that sort of thing. Or even just we got participants to basically record messages to introduce themselves and stuff like that, so that there was ways of creating that sense of sort of community spirit, I guess. So from our point of view, those were a few sort of top tips to give you a little bit of a roadmap for, I guess, how we sort of start thinking about our PD. And what I was going to do next is just show you a couple of examples. So first of all, we have a 6-hour online learning course for assessing student learning with Canvas, which is NESA accredited, and this one's totally self-paced. So I'm in the middle of finishing building that out at the moment. We've got a customer who's using it for the first time next term. So I'm just finishing sort of our videos and beginning to build out all the different sections of that. But I can show you the structure just to give you a little bit of an idea of how we design some of ours. And then we're also going to show you a live example from time that we did with the task school as well. Now, just before I jump into that, is there any sort of questions at this stage? Might be a good point before we go into the demo to grab anyone wants to ask anything or any suggestions.
I've got one.
Sure, David.
Because we're such a large diocese and not like a very small percentage of our schools are using Canvas intensively. Mm-hmm. However, we've got large scale projects like Bruce's in terms of the new RE curriculum that a lot of our participants struggle with the number of notifications that they get, despite our advice and little videos on how to set them. Yeah. So that was the first question. And the second one was that because they're not familiar with Canvas as a learning environment, yeah, do you have any techniques to simplify those routes you were just talking about?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so the first one is really important, the notifications, and I totally hear you. I remember when we first launched at Barker, the amount of teachers who were just so grumpy because, you know, they had literally, their notifications were on the default setting, obviously, but the default settings are fairly full on for a teacher, I think, you know. So it sounds like you're doing all the things that I would recommend in terms of you've made the video, they're not watching it. We had kind of like a help sheet that they printed out that was like, here's our recommended settings. And we did the same for students as well. Because again, everyone's getting pinged with things that they don't necessarily want, and it puts them off the platform rather than engages them with the platform. And that's like, personally, is not the journey we obviously all want to have for our teachers. So maybe really early on in the professional course, you know, perhaps having, you know, if you had a diocese-wide recommended notification sheet, that was, you know, they didn't need to watch, say, the video to do it, or it was just step by step, and here's what we suggest you turn off and on. Maybe if that was just, you know, even a really simple task for them to accomplish in the first sort of module of your professional learning program, and it was like a yes, I've done it, then maybe that would help there perhaps. But yeah, really important point, because yeah, you don't want them already on the offside when they're starting in this way. Absolutely.
I really thought you were going to tell me there was a magic wand.
No, there isn't. No. Yes,
Maybe that could be a feature suggestion for Canvas, that you could change what you have depending on your instance and what your purpose is. Maybe you could set at an account level default notifications differently.
Yeah, I believe it's been raised endlessly, to be honest. Yeah, and it has been upvoted, and this is right back when I started in 2013. We were sort of talking about it. Unfortunately, it has still become a very much like the onus is on the student or the teacher. Because the other thing is the students, like, it would be lovely to make sure that some things were forced on that they got, but obviously they can turn off whatever they like. So yeah, so I totally hear you both, and I wish there was a magic wand.
It is on the product list, though, in terms of some of those. If they do turn their notifications off, what does this look like if there's a school closure or an urgent notification that needs to go out? There has been a discussion about how we would force that to be turned on, but yes, it is hard because it's in the hands of the learner or the student, being the teacher or the student in this case. But there are other methods that people have used, like rediverting to a different like inbox or a folder, so you don't have to worry about them and get frustrated with them, but you're going to get them on your phone if you've got your app sort of turned on. Yeah, there are a couple of methods like that, but yeah, no magic wand, David.
And then your second question, David, was about obviously pointing people who are unfamiliar with Canvas as a learning environment through the course as such. And I guess two things there. When we do Canvas training, obviously with brand new teachers, we do always start with the real basics, which is the dashboard, the navigation, you know, like how to just basically work your way around the system. That's a really kind of flat way, I think, to start a professional learning program, because it's, you know, you might feel like it's just so nuts and bolts and it's not actually getting to the crux of what your professional learning is. But whether or not that's just a module that you could drop in or have like a, you know, just bring it out of that kind of growing with Canvas course, and just basically bring that kind of like, here's your interface, here's how you're going to operate around it, to a very, very short sort of either course on its own that's, you know, 20 minutes and everybody sort of does it in a teacher PD time, or something like that, where it is just, here's your interface and here's a little walk around how you're going to use it, you know. But in terms of yeah, the signposting and things like that, I'll take you into our this is our self-paced teacher course. So
I guess just jumping in there, Sue.
Sure, yeah.
For anyone who's interested, I tried to do exactly what you said, and
Yep.
I've actually built a module called Canvas Introduction, Navigating Your Desktop.
Okay.
So that's actually in Commons if anyone wants to, I don't know, use it.
I'm sure they will. That's exactly, okay.
It's got
Great
24 downloads. It's going viral.
Okay, that's perfect. Yeah, that's exactly what I would recommend. Like just something very simple. And it could be jumped over by seasoned users. Obviously, they could decide, I don't need this, I know what I'm doing. But obviously, you've got to cater for everybody. And if these are first-time users, then absolutely, you don't want to petrify them with what they've got to do, you know, so.
Yeah, and so just to add to that, there's a one option that I've seen in the past, which is which is excellent, was just like an onboarding module where if they were to, or a course I should say, that every new user went through this method, and basically you learnt the skills of how your courses were designed. So if you were having teachers using discussions, part of that onboarding course was submit your discussion. So at least you knew that everyone who was going to be in the course would know how to do a discussion, or would know how to upload a file, or it's something as simple that you could use this for your students as well. But in the teacher space, we shouldn't forget that some teachers or some administration staff are very, very new to a platform like this. So
yeah,
giving them like low stakes, you know, run through or trials is a good way to start. And then that gets their confidence up that it's not something which is out of their reach to go and learn on Canvas, which is, what is this platform and how do I use it? So I've seen that being valuable in the past.
Yeah, and Tori makes a great point there in that, you know, it doesn't take too long when you're designing to obviously just jump on a Canvas guide and, you know, so if it is like, how do I contribute to a discussion, jump into the community, find the Canvas guide for that, get the link, chuck it into the discussion itself. So that, you know, as they're working through, if they don't know how to do it, there's literally like if you're not sure what to do next, press here, you know, and it will open in a new tab. I always find it's better if you open it in a new tab so they don't lose their place. But open it in a new tab, read what they got to do side by side, submit, you know, that sort of thing. So definitely making sure you pitch it, I guess, at the total novice, and then things that can be ignored by more seasoned users as such. Yeah.
I was just with the onboarding and with, I guess what I'm hearing is with staff engaging in a professional learning course in Canvas, you've got two options. Try and design for the staff member to complete an onboarding, like how to engage in this PL prior to beginning, or what I heard then was some staff members are designing professional learning where the how to engage with the Canvas is kind of built into the modules, built into the PD. Have you, anyone which way better in your experience?
Yeah, so I've not ever tried the consortium kind of model, but I guess it depends on when you onboard a new teacher to your school. So just talking from the Barker College experience, I know now when they have new staff, before a new staff member starts, they do a Canvas course, which obviously teaches them how to use Canvas. And it also, all the HR runs through Canvas too. So they kind of get like a guest login before they even start at the school. You know, so that's kind of like, we've brought you up to speed, and yeah, we're expecting you now to be able to do it. I would still pepper any course that you do with links to the guides. Because even if they've done an onboarding course, I sat for years next to a dear colleague who was a visual arts teacher, and every time I literally, she made me a certificate that I was like a Canvas queen, because every time she asked something, I'd lean over and I'd show her, and she'd print out the guides so that she could remember and then didn't have to ask me next time. So she would not go to find the guides online, she would always print them. And then would almost like tick off step by step as she went through the steps to do something. So I think even if they've gone through an onboarding course and they've essentially got a badge or a star, or they've achieved it, it's really quick to forget. And if they're not using it in their daily practice, then, then doing say PD on a Monday when it's a pupil free day, and then they don't do it again until, conference week, for example, you might have a 6-month gap in between. So I think always pepper it with some links so that if they have forgotten on that onboarding, I guess my answer, Chris, is I'd do both. If I was to sum that up, I'd do both. I'd do some sort of onboarding and I would pepper your course with links as well. Yeah.
Great. Thanks, Ed.
And so I know we're about to jump into your show and tell, a demo here. The other one to think about when, and I know a few of you, because I've spoken to you about this before as well, is if you're working with teachers, being the students in this case, because it's Teacher PD, the Passport to Canvas course that we have on Commons is another course that's been designed about students using Canvas. So you might be an institution that's only using it for Teacher PD. So therefore teachers are not aware of Canvas in general. And that Passport to Canvas course, you could pull bits and pieces. I don't recommend going through the whole thing because it's quite a large course, but there might be bits and pieces of inspiration that you'd use from there, thinking that this is what I need to show my teachers as they're learning and utilising Canvas for Teacher PD. So I will put it in the chat, but Passport to Canvas is another one to try not to have to reinvent the wheel, use what is out there where possible.
Yeah, and I think that also goes back to what I was saying about avoiding fatigue. Like, be discerning. If you can get away with teachers only contributing to discussions and never having to say submit an assignment, then all you got to teach them is how to contribute to a discussion. Whereas if you want to do discussions, assignments, quizzes, the lot, then you've got more to teach them. So maybe be discerning in what it is that you want them to be able to do, I guess. So I'll just take a little minute here. I'm conscious of time, and I know we've got let me just check. So we've got about 10 minutes left, so I'll just give you a very quick sort of show and tell. So I've more and more become a fan of driving my homepage via the syllabus. So I used to make kind of like pretty clicky boxes for my home pages. And this year, I don't know why, I've become more of a fan of like the syllabus page actually containing, like, say, the details about the course and then something to obviously get started. So this is the 6-hour course, as I said, the Assessing Student Learning through Canvas. And each part is essentially against one. This is for AITSL standard 5.2.2, and an hour telling, basically showing how to use assignments and rubrics, you know, and then we sort of go down, giving feedback. And if you have a look, this is what I was saying about signposts. So we do start, you know, with the presenter bio, and then we get into the sort of first course. So this is supposed to take an hour for this module. They're just giving, I guess, indications of time. And then each, you know, we've hopefully you're all familiar with module requirements, but if not, you can obviously put these on at the module level. And it does tell your students, in this case, your teachers or admin staff, what it is that they're required to do with each thing that they click. So, you know, when you get into this one, you've got to submit it. This is a warm-up kind of quiz to get them thinking about the specific language that we're using to talk about assessing student learning with Canvas. So, you know, again, not trying to teach teachers to suck eggs, but just the terminology and the way that we're using it in here. And then we have, you know, a handout for the course. Obviously, so we've got templates within each particular page. Course handout that is editable. So some things like this, for example, just little tips, you can download it. Obviously it's auto enabled in terms of the preview, but also there are some editable sections of this, you know, like what makes an effective rubric is a discussion point. So they can download the worksheet itself and actually do some work in that way if they wanted to. And then when we get into, you know, the sort of the actual content pages, so very few parts of the course are assignments. This is set through discussion posts. And so this is a content page that's just, you know, here's the objectives for what you're going to do in this session. This is going to be a video. It's just still in editing at the moment, but this is, you know, the teaching time. And then there would be exploring further, those links built in if you want to actually go a little bit further. And then in the course itself, so just take you back to the requirements, obviously. I was sort of saying about if you wanted to clear signposts and, you know, obviously naming conventions, that sort of thing. So in here, I've just decided to name it quite simply with rubrics, but you could obviously do it 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, you know, however you wanted to really make a structured way through it. But for each thing, the only thing they have to really do, you know, they have to read these pages and mark them as done. But these are the only submissions that they have to make that actually account towards their accredited hours. And for those of you not familiar with NESA, when we went through the registration process in this time last year, we went back and forth, many conversations in that, you know, we have to actually see as an institution that the teachers have learnt from this PD. So in this case, we had to capture what it is that the teachers have done. Sorry, clicked on the wrong thing. What it is that the teachers have done in order to gain their hours. So for this one, we actually need to see that they have created a practice assignment, taken a screenshot of it and put it into the discussion. So here was sort of some of the things that I was just referring to. Here you might get teachers who go, I have no idea how to take a screenshot, you know, and that's pretty common. So here, you know, instructions for Mac, instructions for Windows. We're also in the process of making a short video that explains how to do this as well, which will go in here. And then obviously some instructions for how to reply to this thread. And then once they reply to the thread, there's an example sort of in there as well. So just sort of signposts, I guess, to get them through it. Now I make the discussions that I need to have data from in order to submit the details to ETAMS. I make those a marked discussion, because if you make it a marked discussion, obviously I'm sure you're aware, then it opens in SpeedGrader and it means that I can see my list of participants and I can see who did and didn't in the grade book, and I'm simply giving them a completed or incomplete as a mark. So it's a 1 or a 0, complete, incomplete, essentially. And the reason for that is that I do not want to be trawling through endless discussion posts to tick off, this teacher 1 did it, teacher 2 didn't, teacher 3 did, so some simple tips, I guess, to if you need it in, make it a marked discussion. And so yeah, from this self-paced module, I guess that's probably just a quick run through. I've got a warm up for engagement. I've got the session content with the different things they need to do, all discussion based. Additional resources, as I said, for that idea of following the route, but actually making sure there's some extras if they want to go a little bit further. And then obviously putting on prerequisites for, they can't start this module until they've finished that one, and they have to obviously follow it through in order. And then from the student perspective, I've just opened this in student view. Once they go in, obviously everything's grayed out until they've completed the first thing, the next thing, etc. So when they go in, they're going to be able to very clearly see where they're up to. The school that's purchased this is going to give their staff, I think, 8 weeks to complete. So they're going to start it in late October, and they've got until sort of the end of the year. So, they'll be dipping in and out, I guess, at different points. So it's kind of important for them to know where they're up to. So that's that one. Is there any questions just there before I jump into the task, the one that we've actually got teachers who've completed as such?
Just a quick one. With your course handout, do you just literally make that document copying, pasting what's in the course?
With the course handout there?
Yeah.
No, it's actually a little bit more than that. Yeah. So, so this is kind of like, it could be, obviously, I know what you're saying. It could just be pages from the course. In some ways it is, like this is taken from that bit here, the 2 columns, that's taken from the slide deck. This is more of this is actually taken from the blurb that I had to write for Nessa to justify the course, actually. So there's a bit more in there than just simply what you would do by listening to the, it's a little bit more. But yeah, you could absolutely just take it from the pages and just have it as a printable kind of version of your pages, essentially. But yeah, we put a little bit more in here than in the pages so that there is, I guess, something that they can take away. And then obviously there's some further links and things like that. So
thank you.
And how teachers like your academic references. So always get a few of those in, etc.
So what was your rationale behind using the syllabus page as your homepage again?
Yeah, so I've not done that this much so this year I've started working for a school fully online. I don't know if they've got a big online cohort, Australian Christian College, and they just do it this way. So everything is, the syllabus page is the homepage, which has got the course, I guess, rationale, the course details, that sort of thing. And so I've just kind of enjoyed it as a way of not kind of having to make your own dynamic homepage as such, and just being able to lead with a bit of text. You can obviously make it more pretty than this if you want to, but lead with a bit of text and keeping it simple, and then just basically starting and flowing into the course like that. But I haven't done it with all of them. Like my other Nessa courses, let me just show you. These are individual courses. So this is the course in just 1.5 hours. And they're with that sort of homepage, so much more you click and, an image is your. So yeah, it's just been a kind of evolving thing this year that I've enjoyed putting I like having the details about it in the syllabus page. Whereas you could do that with a homepage as well. I often find the syllabus page becomes quite redundant if you're not using it as a homepage. It's not a place that's often visited, I don't think so.
I think people love the syllabus too, so if they are using it for the specific dates and like a trajectory of the course and where it's heading, because you've got the dates and what's due, and so you can use those kind of features of assignments or event dates that are put into there or populated there automatically. But
yeah. So this is the same as what I was just sort of showing you, just a different layout, I guess, for this is just a 1 hour course. So, and then Tori and I were going to show you this course, which, do you want to sort of explain how this one came about, Tori?
Yeah, I'll just stop this recording because I did say that I wouldn't record this part. Just